They lied to you. They told you to be authentic, to be vulnerable, that your feelings were valid. But what if your feelings are merely the strings and the world is the puppeteer? What if the validation you crave is the very key to your prison cell? There is a state of mind where the words of others become mere noise, where insults lose their sting and praise loses its power. This is not about building thicker skin. It is about dismantling the very mechanism of being affected, once and for all. We begin with the common man, the idealist. You have been taught that the world is a place of potential connection, of shared values, of mutual respect. You operate on a noble but fatally flawed assumption that people are as they should be, not as they are. Your life is a constant reaction. A word of praise from a superior sends you soaring. A whispered criticism from a colleague ruins your day, occupying your thoughts like an invading army. You seek consensus, you avoid conflict, and you believe that your good intentions will be recognized and rewarded. This is the ruin of the idealist. You have built your house on the sand of human decency, and you are shocked when the tide of human nature washes it away. Every day you become a victim of your own morality. You offer trust and receive betrayal. You show kindness, and it is mistaken for weakness. You speak with sincerity, while others speak with strategy. Your emotional state is not your own. It is a public utility, available for anyone to manipulate. When you are affected by others, you are not in control. You are a leaf in the wind, convinced you are flying, when in reality you are merely being blown about by forces you refuse to see. This vulnerability is not a virtue, it is a strategic catastrophe. In the unforgiving arithmetic of power, the predictable man is the conquered man. Your goodness, your emotional transparency, your very desire to be liked, these are not assets, they are liabilities. They are the levers your rivals, your friends, and your enemies will use to move you, to shape you, to break you. You live in a state of psychological servitude, a prisoner who does not even realize he is in chains. Now, consider the path of the prince, the strategist, the student of reality. This path begins with the rejection of comforting illusions. It begins with Machiavelli. To become immune to the influence of others, you must first accept a brutal and liberating truth. Men are ungrateful, fickle, liars, and deceivers. They are driven not by the virtues they profess, but by the interests they conceal. To master your own world, you must first understand the world as it truly is, a theater of ambition, a battleground of competing wills. The first principle of this liberation is to learn how not to be good. This is not a call to wickedness. It is a command to unshackle yourself from a moral code that your opponents will never apply to themselves. It is the freedom to act not based on idealistic principles, but on a cold, pragmatic assessment of what is necessary to achieve your objective. The idealist asks, what is the right thing to do? The prince asks, what must be done? This shift in perspective is the source of all personal sovereignty. Power, as Machiavelli understood, does not reside in virtue. It resides in the ability to use both virtue and vice as tools, to appear merciful when it serves you, to be severe when it is required. Your weapon is no longer hope or faith in others. Your weapon is observation. You must learn to see the anatomy of power in every interaction. You must dissect conversations not for their surface meaning, but for their underlying intent. The man who asks for your help, is he seeking aid or is he testing your boundaries? The woman who offers you praise, is she showing admiration or is she grooming you for a request? The idealist takes the world at face value. The prince examines its inner workings with the cold detachment of a watchmaker. He understands that human nature is a constant. It does not change with the centuries. The same ambitions that drove the courts of Renaissance Florence are at play in your corporate office, in your social circle, in your family. To cease being affected by the world, you must cease to be surprised by it. See men for what they are, and their actions will lose the power to wound you. See their motives, and their words will lose the power to manipulate you. This is the first, most critical step, the transition from a pawn of circumstance to a student of cause and effect. You are not renouncing morality. You are adopting a higher one, the morality of the effective, the one who secures order and stability in his own mind, his own state, while others are lost in the chaos of their emotional reactions. Because sentiment is the currency of the weak, and emotional reactions are the chains that bind you to the will of others. The world is a stage of ambition, not a forum for feelings. Comment "The mind is the throne" to claim your sovereignty and subscribe for the lessons on how to fortify it. Having accepted the grim reality of the human condition, you can now begin the great work, the construction of your own mental fortress. A mind that cannot be affected is not born, it is engineered. This engineering rests upon two foundational pillars drawn from the immutable laws of power. These are the instruments that separate the ruler from the ruled, the cause from the effect. The first pillar is the mastery of the dual nature of the beast. For as Machiavelli advises, a prince must know how to use both the man and the beast, and from the beast he must choose two forms, the fox and the lion. To rely on one without the other is to invite ruin. The lion is formidable, a symbol of raw power and indomitable will. His strength deters the wolves, the brazen aggressors who prey on the weak. The lion's presence is a statement. It communicates that any attack will be met with overwhelming and ruinous force. This is the power of intimidation, the projection of a capacity for decisive, even brutal action. However, the lion in all his might is blind to snares. He can be led into a trap, his brute force rendered useless by a simple, well-placed pitfall. He cannot see the subtle machinations, the deceptions woven into the fabric of social and political life. This is where the fox is essential. The fox is the master of cunning, the embodiment of strategic acumen. She is not strong, but she is astute. She recognizes the scent of deceit. She sees the tripwire in the dark. The fox understands that most threats are not overt assaults, but subtle manipulations. The carefully worded compliment designed to lower your guard, the appeal to pity crafted to indebt you, the rumor seeded to undermine your reputation. The fox navigates the world of hidden motives and veiled intentions. She understands that the sweetest wine may carry the deadliest poison. To survive and to command, you must cultivate this duality within yourself. You must possess the strategic foresight of the fox to identify and evade the traps laid by others. This means becoming a connoisseur of human behavior, listening not only to what is said, but why it is said. It means analyzing every request, every offer, every insult as a strategic move in a larger game. Simultaneously, you must project the unyielding strength of the lion. This is not about overt aggression. True power is often quiet. It is in the steadiness of your gaze, the economy of your words, the unshakable calm you display under pressure. It is a presence that communicates you cannot be pushed, intimidated, or frightened from your course. The world must understand that while you are clever enough to avoid their snares, you are also powerful enough to destroy them if they persist. The man who is only a fox is seen as weak and shifty. The man who is only a lion is seen as a foolish brute. But the one who embodies both, the one who cannot be deceived nor intimidated, is the one who cannot be affected. The second pillar is the absolute control of your public image, the doctrine of appearances. This is perhaps the most profound and misunderstood of Machiavelli's teachings. He wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." This is not a call for dishonesty. It is the ultimate strategy for self-preservation and control. Your inner world, your doubts, your fears, your true calculations, your ultimate ambitions, is the sanctum of your power. It must remain impenetrable, a state secret known only to you. What you present to the world is a carefully constructed facade, a persona designed to achieve specific effects. This facade is your armor. The opinions, judgments, and emotional attacks of others are directed at this external image, not at your true self. They can strike it, they can attempt to deface it, but your core remains untouched, observing, learning, and planning from a position of absolute security. You must therefore become the supreme artist of perception. In public, you should strive to appear endowed with the qualities society professes to admire: mercy, faithfulness, integrity, humanity, and piety. Whether you possess them in your heart is irrelevant. What matters is that the populace believes you do. Let us bring these principles into the arena of daily life. Imagine a colleague approaches you with effusive praise for a recent accomplishment. The idealist, starved for validation, absorbs it gratefully. He feels a sense of warmth and lowers his guard. The prince, employing the cunning of the fox, hears the praise but immediately analyzes its purpose. Is it a genuine compliment, or is it a prelude to a request for an inconvenient favor? Is it an attempt to make him complacent before a competitive move? He accepts the compliment with grace, for to appear ungracious is a poor performance, but inwardly his strategic awareness is heightened. He offers nothing in return and watches for the next move. Now imagine you're in a meeting and a rival attempts to publicly humiliate you with a pointed question designed to expose a weakness. The idealist reacts emotionally. He becomes defensive. He stammers. His anger or embarrassment is visible to all. He has lost control. The prince, summoning the spirit of the lion, does not react. He pauses. He holds the attacker's gaze, not with anger, but with a look of cold, analytical curiosity. This silence, this utter lack of emotional response is more powerful than any retort. He might then answer the question calmly and factually, or turn it back on the questioner, exposing their motive. He has demonstrated that he cannot be provoked. He has used the attack to display his own superior self-control, reinforcing his armor of appearances. His reputation for being unflappable is strengthened, while the aggressor is seen as emotional and unprofessional. This is the essence of psychological sovereignty. You build a fortress with the cunning of the fox and the strength of the lion, and you protect that fortress with the impenetrable shield of appearances. You do not expose your true self to the arrows of the world. You send forth a proxy, an image of your own design to fight your battles for you. The walls of your mental fortress have been erected, its pillars forged from the cunning of the fox and the might of the lion, all shielded by the artistry of appearances. But the most dangerous enemy is already inside the gates. A civil war rages within every man, a conflict between the ego and the will, between impulse and strategy. The first and most vital campaign a prince must wage is for control of this internal territory. This is the war against the self. Your own need for validation, your vanity, your instinctive reactions to praise and scorn, these are the traitors within your court. An insult only has power because your pride gives it currency. A betrayal only devastates you because your trust was given blindly, as a sentiment rather than as a strategic investment. The first victory, therefore, is one of detachment. You must learn to view the actions of others not as personal affronts, but as moves on a chessboard. They are data points to be analyzed, not wounds to be felt. The strategist must achieve a state of sublime emotional distance, observing the passions of others without becoming enslaved by his own. He is a physician of human nature, diagnosing the ambitions, fears, and insecurities that drive those around him, all while maintaining a perfectly sterile internal environment. The hesitation to do what is necessary, born from a lifetime of conventional moral instruction, must be surgically removed. This is not a descent into nihilism. It is an ascent to a higher plane of effectiveness. The well-being of your state, your objectives, your legacy, your security, becomes the supreme law, a goal for which you must be willing to sacrifice your own comfort and the approval of lesser men. To conquer your own spirit is the ultimate act of power, for if you cannot be provoked, you cannot be manipulated. If you cannot be flattered, you cannot be deceived. If you are the absolute monarch of your own mind, you become an insoluble problem for those who would seek to control you. Once this inner kingdom is pacified, you can turn your gaze outward, not as a passive observer, but as an architect of perception. You now understand that the men and women around you are governed by their emotions, and this provides you with the levers to shape their reality. This brings us to the timeless dilemma. Is it better to be loved or to be feared? The idealist, the common man, will always choose love, but as Machiavelli understood, this is a fatal error. Love is a bond of obligation, and because men are, in his words, wretched creatures, they will break this bond whenever their own self-interest is at stake. To rely on love is to give others the power to withdraw their support at will. It is to build your throne on the shifting sands of their affection. Fear, however, is a different matter entirely. Fear, in the Machiavellian sense, is not the terror inspired by a tyrant. It is a profound and unshakable respect for your power, your decisiveness, and the certainty of the consequences should one cross you. Love is a gift bestowed upon you by others. Fear is a foundation you build for yourself. It is maintained, Machiavelli states, by a dread of punishment which never fails. The goal is not to be hated. Hatred is a consuming, active emotion that breeds conspiracies and inspires desperate acts of revenge. A prince must avoid being hated at all costs, and the formula is simple. Do not take the property or the women of your subjects. As long as you do not despoil them of their honor or their inheritance, most men will live contentedly. The fear you cultivate is a cold, calculated respect. It is the understanding in your subordinate's mind that failure to perform will have immediate and unavoidable repercussions. It is the knowledge in your rival's mind that any move against you will be met with disproportionate and ruinous retaliation. This fear creates order. It establishes boundaries. It makes the world predictable, for you have become the most predictable and reliable force within it. This mastery of yourself and of the perceptions of others culminates in the understanding that all public life is a performance. Every action, every word, every gesture must be a calculated piece of theater designed to reinforce the reputation you wish to cultivate. You are the director, the playwright, and the lead actor on the stage of power. Your reputation is both your primary weapon and your strongest armor. Therefore, you must be seen as merciful, faithful, humane, upright, and religious. Machiavelli is clear. It is not necessary to have all these qualities, but it is absolutely necessary to seem to have them. In fact, possessing them and observing them under all circumstances is often harmful, whereas seeming to have them is always useful. There will be times when maintaining your state requires you to act against faith, against charity, against humanity, against religion. A prince must have a mind prepared to turn itself according to the winds of fortune and the necessities of the situation. Every public appearance is an opportunity to add another layer to this carefully constructed image. A well-timed act of public clemency can cement your reputation for mercy, even if you were ruthless behind closed doors the day before. A public donation can signal your piety and generosity. The very way you carry yourself, your deliberate speech, your controlled expressions, all of it is a message. You are communicating that you are a master of your domain, a figure of stability in a chaotic world. The populace does not judge you by your secret actions, but by your public results and appearances. They see the performance, they believe in the character you project, and they grant you their obedience. This is the ultimate tool of control, to build a facade so convincing and a reputation so powerful that it governs the minds of men more effectively than any army ever could. You have seen through the fog of human nature and have forged the armor of your own will. Now, before we reveal the final act that solidifies your legacy and renders you the cause, not the effect of the world around you, ensure you are subscribed. For the ultimate wisdom of command is reserved only for those prepared to see the strategy through to its conclusion. The time for observation is over. The moment for decisive action arrives. This is the masterstroke, the singular event where your preparation and skill, your virtù, seize upon an opportunity presented by circumstance, by fortuna. This is not merely another move in the game. It is the move that overturns the board and establishes a new one of your own design. This decisive action could be the calm and surgical removal of a toxic influence from your life, the public exposure of a manipulator's schemes, or the final, irreversible severing of your emotional dependence on another's approval. The nature of the act is defined by its finality. As the Florentine master advised, injuries ought to be done all at once, so that being tasted less, they offend less. Your strike must be a thunderclap, sudden, total, and conclusive. There can be no hesitation, no half measures, no lingering sentiment. A prolonged, drawn-out conflict creates festering wounds and invites retaliation. A single, clean cut, however painful in the moment, is ultimately a form of mercy. It establishes a new reality so quickly and so completely that the old order becomes an irrelevant memory. This is the moment you stop reacting to the psychological pressures exerted upon you, and instead fundamentally restructure the environment so those pressures can no longer exist. You do not simply weather the storm, you alter the climate. This act of sovereignty is the culmination of your internal war, a final declaration of independence from the emotional governance of others, but the masterstroke in itself is not the victory. The true triumph is not found in the dramatic event, but in the quiet, methodical work that follows. The prince does not rest upon his laurels after a conquest. He immediately begins to lay the foundations of his new state. Victory is a fleeting moment. Stability is the enduring prize. You must therefore move instantly to consolidate your newfound autonomy. The objective is to build a state, a robust, well-governed structure of mind and habit that perpetuates your power and protects you from the relentless currents of fortune. This means establishing new institutions within your own psyche. You will codify new laws of personal conduct, boundaries that are no longer suggestions but inviolable borders. You will create a new system of intelligence, learning to trust your own cold observation over the emotional testimonies of others. You will appoint a new court of advisors, surrounding yourself only with those who have proven their loyalty and competence, while exiling the sycophants and the emotionally volatile. This is the great and silent work of building an internal dominion that is resilient and self-perpetuating. You transform your mind from a chaotic republic, swayed by the shifting moods of the populace, into a disciplined and orderly principality, governed by a single unwavering will, your own. The goal is not merely to win a single battle for your independence, but to construct a system where such battles are no longer necessary. Your internal state must become so well fortified, your reputation so firmly established, that the very thought of attempting to affect you becomes an absurdity. We arrive then at the final philosophical truth of this journey. The ultimate power, the true invulnerability you have sought, is not a matter of goodness or wickedness as defined by conventional morality. It is a question of efficacy. It is the capacity to see the world with unclouded eyes, to perceive the stark and often brutal mechanics of human interaction, and to possess the formidable courage to act in accordance with that vision. It is the rejection of idealism, not for the sake of cynicism, but for the sake of realism, the only ground upon which anything of lasting value can be built. You have learned that to control your world, you must first control yourself. To become immune to the influence of others, you must become the sole author of your own thoughts and the absolute master of your own reactions. The chaos of the world does not cease to exist. The ambitions and manipulations of others will not simply vanish, but they no longer have purchase upon you. You are a rock in the river, and the current of human folly which once carried you away now breaks harmlessly against you. This is the construction of a throne that endures. It is not a throne of gold and iron seated in some distant palace, but a throne built within the sanctum of your own mind. From this seat of power, you can observe, you can plan, and you can act, all while remaining perfectly, unshakably, and eternally unaffected. You do not rule over others, you rule over yourself, and in doing so you have achieved a form of kingship that no revolution can ever touch and no army can ever conquer.